What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel here at the remote front office. Before we get started, as always, make sure to leave a like, hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell. We are slowly growing over here. It is the middle of the off season, as you guys can tell, but we are slowly getting towards schedule reviews, which will lead to standing predictions, over/under predictions, all that sort of stuff here on the channel. But today we are going to be covering the Boston Celtics offseason. So I know we did the Nuggets, then we did Heat. Now we're doing the Celtics because they won more games in the conference finals than the Lakers. No shot at the Lakers. But today we will be covering kind of what happened in their offseason and then my expectations for this team going forward. So, as far as players that they are not bringing back, right? Gallo was a part of the trade to Washington for Porzingis. He didn't play last year, but he was an initial signing that I think everybody did like as part of their bench. Mike Muscala was also in that trade. Again, played minutes here and there, but wasn't necessarily a consistent player on this team. Blake Griffin has yet to be signed. I'm assuming he's probably going to retire here relatively soon. The big one they lost, Marcus Smart. He was traded to the Memphis Grizzlies, again, as a part of the three-teamer that brought in Porzingis. And we'll discuss kind of more of the meaning of that as far as how this team is now structured once we get to that part of the video. They also lost Grant Williams in a deal to Dallas. I think that was more about Grant Williams wanting a different role, as I just don't really see why they couldn't have necessarily matched the money other than the tax implications now with the Jaylen Brown extension and the Jaylen Brown extension now being done. So they have brought in Delano Banton, who was on the Raptors bench last year. O'Shea Brissett, who was with the Pacers, didn't get a whole lot of playing time. Porzingis, obviously, is the big name that they brought in to help with their big man minutes. And then other than that, they have the rookie that they drafted in Jordan Walsh. Had some promising summer league highlights. Again, it's summer league, so we don't know one way or the other. But looked like he could potentially, I wouldn't be surprised if maybe he came in for a game in the middle of like December-ish range and had like a good, solid all-around stat line. And Boston Celtics fans went crazy of how he was the next sleeper draft prospect, etc. Obviously, you did re-sign Jaylen Brown to his max over $300 million for 5 years. And then you also brought back J.D. Davidson. So, what do I think of the Celtics offseason as a whole? I think it's tough to lose Marcus Smart. I understand that at some point you just had too many guards, and you needed to lose one in order to free up minutes for Peyton Pritchard, and also just to kind of stabilize that guard rotation. However, you lost the heart and soul of your defense. Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, neither of them are necessarily the biggest leaders as far as vocally, I will say. As far as everything we've seen on the court, off the court, locker room wise, Marcus Smart was the heart and soul of this team one way or the other, right? I understand he had the nights where he felt like he was the best player on the team and he would shoot the ball a bunch. We also had the random quotes that came out after a couple of losses of how he didn't feel like everybody was getting the ball, and in particular, he wasn't getting enough shots, etc., etc. But obviously, a guard had to go. Personally, I would have liked the idea of Malcolm Brogdon being the one to go, which was the initial Clippers trade, but obviously his medicals aren't great right now, which is why he's still there, which is a little concerning. But it was announced, I believe, a couple of weeks ago that Derek White will be starting point guard one. So I'm assuming the lineup's going to go something of Derek White, Jaylen Brown, Tatum, Horford, Porzingis, or Porzingis, Robert Williams. Personally, the lineup I would go would make more sense. But I understand if they want to maintain the spacing starting Al Horford. I just think you kind of need to preserve Al Horford for the playoffs. Some issues I have with this team. You did give up one of your more durable players. You are now relying on Malcolm Brogdon. He was pretty good as far as injury history last year. But in the past, his injury history has not been great. And then also you are now relying on Kristaps Porzingis along with Rob Williams as your bigs on this roster, and Al Horford being another year into the NBA, right? So your big rotation of Horford, Porzingis, and Rob Williams are all either getting up there in age or have extensive injury histories. Thankfully, your two main guys, though, do have a rather clean bill of health as far as Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. The other thing that concerns me a little bit is you're now relying on Tatum and Brown to be more of facilitators, right? I understand they were more offensive initiators because that's just kind of what superstars do nowadays. But as far as the facilitating part of it, that's what concerns me. Because you guys have lost in the playoffs the last couple of years, and I feel like it is due to, partially at least, due to the facilitating inability of those two guys. Um, I am curious as far as in the long run how this team operates. I do like them. I will say out of the East, it's them and Milwaukee. I think those are the two I'm most comfortable with as of right now, minus a Dame trade to somewhere. But as of right now, those are the two teams I'm most comfortable with going back to at least the Eastern Conference Finals, if not the NBA Finals, right? Um, I do think you probably need another guard on the buyout market. If Dennis Schroeder still somehow would have slipped through the cracks, I would have liked him there. Just kind of as an insurance policy, because who knows what will happen with Malcolm Brogdon. And you're also relying just kind of on a little bit more of that bench. Also now with Gallo being gone, the wing depth is a little interesting in my book. I understand that come playoff time, you're going to have Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum playing 40 plus minutes a game, but I don't really want them doing that during the regular season. And kind of my last issue with this team is, are we sure Joe Mazzulla is the right coach? I understand he kind of got thrown into a really bad situation last year with getting the job kind of last minute almost. Didn't really get a chance to implement stuff. But we saw it pretty early on that Joe Mazzulla is not the defensive guy that they had before, right? Um, That's not his philosophy. Clearly, his philosophy is spacing, threes. It's why Grant Williams plays, for whatever reason, Grant Williams didn't play as much for him, even though I think he fit that a lot better than most people give him credit for as far as the defense, guarding multiple positions, shooting a lot of threes. At one point, this was like one of the best offenses ever, according to the stats, at least, not actually. But I just think you're relying on. You lost a lot of defense this offseason, right? You lost your Grant Williams, you lost your Marcus Smarts. I understand Tatum and Brown are considered two-way players. Derek White is a good defensive player. The leadership concerns me now. Joe Mazzulla expecting to lead this team to a championship. I don't feel like you upgraded, right, in coaching. When the Warriors switched, the example I'm going to use, from Mark Jackson to Steve Kerr made some adjustments and the team elevated. I don't feel like the team elevated with this coaching change, right? So, I mean, we'll see. Again, it's a long season. Anything can happen. But just the defensive rating will concern me this year. The health will concern me. I don't know if you're going to have your full top 8 guys by the time the playoffs come. Even if you're down one or two of those guys, I don't know how far you go in the playoffs, right? I don't know if you get past the second round, maybe the third round. If you get a really bad matchup and play Milwaukee in the second round, right? Say one of these teams struggles in the regular season, or you guys both get overshot by somebody else has a really good regular season, and all of a sudden Boston's the 2, Milwaukee's the 3 seed, you're now playing Milwaukee in the second round, right? And you're going to need all of your guys to be healthy. So I just think that that's a concern for Boston. We'll see how it goes. I will give their official over-under predictions and stuff like that. I don't think they fall out of the top 3 in the East personally. I'll just say that right now. I think they are at least the top 3 seed in the Eastern Conference this year. But as far as the deep playoff push, again, we'll have to see. Joe Mazzulla's got to make adjustments. They have to want it defensively. Their offense at the end of games has to be extremely, extremely, extremely well run, right? It's been really bad the last couple of years. Bad turnovers, guys not being able to handle the ball, pressure, etc. I just think that as now that Tatum's a little bit older, Brown's starting to get older. You have Derek White now, Marcus Smart's no longer there. You've got to just fine-tune some of these things, right? But that's my thoughts. Let me know your guys' thoughts down below, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Peace.